Happy New Year. Whoop, whoop.
Happy New Year. Here we are.
New Year. Welcome to work. You came back to work. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Abby's back after a long...
Yes, and better than ever.
Anyway, but Abby, welcome back. How was your wedding?
It was great. You were there, remember?
Oh,
Remember? You keep asking me, and I'm like, you were there.
I was definitely there. But what if the employees want to know?
It was great.
Yeah.
It was really a night I will never forget.
Yeah.
So it was a great evening.
Okay. So, how long do we continue saying Happy New Year? What do you
A
think?
month.
At least to February?
I would say so. Once it's February, then it's Valentine's Day. So you
So you
gotta
don't
cut
need
it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Abby, again, we're so glad to have you back.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
We are back. We're season 2. We're super excited to be here. We have so many great topics for you. So many great conversations. We're excited. So I know you can tell, right? So I have a listener question that I thought was very funny, but so relevant. So I'm gonna read it to you.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, give it to us.
So I'm going to sum it up. It was a long message. So I'm going to sum it up. But basically, this listener asked, why do companies require 2-week notice? And when we're about to terminate them, we don't give them a notice. This listener said they recommend giving a month's notice because they have families and bills and all the other things. What is your thought? How do we mitigate or help this listener?
So first of all, that's a really empathetic response of saying, hey, employees, if you're going to terminate someone, please give them a month. I would love it at the end of the day.
I love it.
But what I would say is when you are going to be terminated, there are signs.
Yeah.
It is important for you to be intuitive. It's kind of like with your cell phone, right?
Yeah.
When it starts to freeze, glitch up, you kind of know the end is nigh.
I'm going to get a new one.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would say the same with your employment. Be mindful, be aware. One of the biggest things in the HR world is a PIP, Yeah. I'm not saying when you're placed on a PIP, it means that you're automatically terminated, or you're going to be terminated. I've had employees move past that. But typically, a PIP is established because you're not meeting their standards. So that's an example. If you've had multiple conversations with your manager on topics, issues, things that aren't being done to their likings, I would say those are all signs that a potential separation could be imminent.
Yeah. No, I agree. And from a legal perspective, right? Alabama's at will state. So you could leave at any point. And we could terminate at any point for any reason, unless it's a Title VII reason, and we got to be careful with it.
Yes, and I also think at will, a lot of managers will love to use that and throw it at me all the time. Oh, we're at will. It doesn't matter. I can terminate somebody at any time. But you also have to look at it this way. And you're a JD, so you should know. In a jury of their peers,
that's right.
In a wrongful termination case,
they're gonna win every time.
Exactly.
Every time.
So again, to me, when we are terminating an employee, it's a conversation that is happening weeks, if not months, before the actual termination date.
Yeah.
As HR, we are gathering evidence. We're asking managers to give us the information we need to ensure that we are comfortable executing a termination and that we protect ourselves, we protect the company.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't realize that it's not just the company. When you are deposed in a wrongful termination suit, that's your time, energy, your name on the line.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to back yourself up and not waste your time, because it's tiring.
Yeah. And listener, we empathize with you. We would love to give you a month's notice if it warrants a term.
Right.
But I'm going to say this, and Abby, she alluded to it. We, as HR professionals, we don't term you. And we're going to do an entire episode on that. So please make sure you watch that. But we personally do not make decision to terminate your employment. That is your leader. That is your manager. That is your supervisor. We're consulted and we give recommendations. We give advice on, okay, is this the right move? We take a risk analysis, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have enough to terminate this employee? What you may not understand and know, employee, listener, we probably defend you the most, especially if it's not enough. If it's not enough,
Absolutely.
we're not going to sign off on that. Now, we give recommendations. So sometimes organizations, they take that very seriously, and they don't. They listen. Some of them, they say, okay, and they do what they want to do. And then here we are having to help deflect or defend or try to help the situation with the term. But to answer your question, we empathize with you. Some cases, just they don't give us that option. Now, in a layoff or plant closure,
Right.
they should absolutely 100% give you some type of notice.
Absolutely.
And most companies, I think, do.
Yeah, and legally there's things like the WARN Act, which is super, I think, important for employees, and it helps them because it's a legal mandate that requires that you give at least a 3-month notice before a closure happens.
Exactly.
But then there's also things, I mean, on the flip side of that, of if you have done something that is in clear violation to a company's standards or practices or their handbook in general, you can't be surprised if that termination happens quickly.
Exactly.
So just as the action happens quickly, so will the termination.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks for answering that question.
course.
So, listeners, viewers, employees, send us questions, send us notes,
Please.
send us comments. We'd love to read them and answer them for you. Abby, do you like long distance relationships? You think you can do that? I mean, well, you're married now, so but could you do a long distance relationship?
I did, and it didn't work.
It did not work.
It didn't work, but I think it's different. When you're talking about relationships, like a personal, intimate relationship with a partner is different than a working relationship. Now, as a working relationship, excellent.
So that
would recommend.
That brings me to my question. Long distance leadership. Do you think it could work?
Yeah.
Example.
Yeah.
I sit in Birmingham. What if I have a team that sits in Houston? Do you think I can lead my team here from Birmingham effectively?
Yes. Now, I would say you should still travel to have that face-to-face with them periodically, because I think that's important to forging connections, ensuring that they're comfortable with you, and you're not just like, this scary face on a TV screen that they see once a month whenever they have their one-on-ones. But yeah, absolutely. I, currently in my current position, my manager sits in Michigan and I'm here. And we have meetings once every 2 weeks, and we kind of sit together. We discuss what's happening at my plant, issues that I'm coming across that are, coming to the forefront, engagement, things of that nature. But I think it works really, really well. Now, I do think it takes a little bit more effort because you have to initiate the conversations. You have to have those meetings on your calendar. You have to, do the check-ins, because it's not like they're going to just walk past you in the hallway. But I think it's really effective. And I also think it allows and empowers employees. Because for me, I feel very empowered in my position to be able to make decisions. And my manager trusts me to do that. So, yeah, I absolutely think it works. Living proof.
Yeah. What are the cons to it, you think?
Ooh.
If any. You don't have to make up any. If there's no cons in your opinion.
If your leader is not an effective communicator, that can cause collapse in communication overall, because your manager's not going to know what's going on with you unless something wrong happens. Because I've seen that happen before too. You have a manager who sits in a different state or location, and they don't interact with their team at all unless there is a problem. And then they are, back to back trying to call them, reach out to them, say, hey, what is this issue? How can we fix it? What's happening? As opposed to, if you were continually having those conversations with them, you would know if there was an issue on the horizon. It wouldn't have just dropped in your lap. So I really think it's all about communication. it does work. And like I said, living proof of it, but you need to be vigilant. You need to check in with your folks. And sometimes you need to just do, sometimes with my manager, she'll just ask me, how are you? Like she asked me about my wedding. You know what I mean? Like there were just small things that you have to see that person as a person.
Yep.
And part of that comes from, like I said, just maybe even visiting, once a quarter, twice a quarter. I don't know, whatever cadence works best for you, but.
I agree with you and all that. And really, I have really nothing to add. So we can really stop the recording now.
It's a wrap.
You hit the nail around the head. Effective communication and what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm living proof that it works.
Yeah.
But I have effective communication. I have meetings. We have meetings every Monday. We have one-on-ones every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I communicate with my team. We have a good time. It's not a boring, all right, this is what we got to do today. This is our week's goals. Is everybody on board? What? I would dread going to that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it definitely can work. I was in your same boat of me having an autonomy. My leader empowered me to do my own thing,
right.
Make my own decisions, consult as needed and as available. So before I made any big decisions, I would always say, hey, here's what I got.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Do you have any questions? Would you handle it differently?
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I feel empowered to do my job.
Absolutely.
I stress it to my team, do your job.
Mm-hmm.
We paid you to do your job.
Yeah.
I trust you to do it. And if it's something that comes up that I'm like, okay, what happened, Abby? Then we have another conversation.
Absolutely.
But I think effective communication, but if you're a bad leader or you don't communicate well, it's not going to work.
No,
You'll
not.
probably sleep, taking a nap,
Mm-hmm.
and your team is doing the same thing. They're not present.
No.
And I use that word a lot, being present. I think it's very important as a long distance leader.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to be present. And if it's a phone call, it's a Teams, a Zoom, a Slack. What else?
Yeah, Slack.
Google.
Okay,
don't get me started on Google. But you're just far away. If you're far away, just be present. Be available
Yes.
for them if they need you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
there's a 50% chance they won't need you for anything.
Mm-hmm.
But as a small check-in, I think that's exactly what I would say. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah. And it
Because
bridges.
it works.
Yeah. And it bridges that gap. I also think, and I say this with even dealing with a lot of times, we're young, relatively young in our careers, right? Sometimes when I go in interviews or people speak to me, they're like, wow, you've had such a really good career. Mm-hmm. How have you managed to relate to somebody who is twice your age or somebody who has been working for 30 plus years? And my answer to them is always, you have to bridge the gap and realize that people are people. Find that common ground.
That's right.
You need to also say like, hey, I'm here to help support you.
That's right.
I know that maybe, it can be difficult and the situation is, not typical to what you're used to because a lot of people have never experienced that. They've never experienced long distance management.
Yeah.
So I know this is not what you're used to, but I just want you to know, like, I'm a person too. Like, I have to take my dog out. I go to doctor's appointments. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm human.
Yes. So like finding that common ground is so, so important. And then also, like you said, respecting their expertise, respecting that you were hired to do a job. You were hired under the premise that we believe that you are competent enough to ensure the functionality of your plant,
That's right.
school, whatever it is that, your industry is. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so important, like I said, just bringing it back to the basics of finding that common ground and also recognizing like, hey, listen, this may not be the most typical situation, but we're going to make it work. We're going to rock with it.
Make it work. Exactly.
And it can be beneficial for the both of us.
Yeah.
I think for me, I've been given opportunities that I don't think I would have had in traditional landscapes, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I think it's really excellent. You just have to have the right person and they need to understand what is expected of them and how to
Clear expectations.
clear expectations and how moving forward, they need to just be agile and kind of go with the flow.
Yeah. 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 That's So you know what? I think
Did that
that
wrap it?
that wraps it up. I think we what we wanted to stress in this episode is, or this topic is, really long distance relationships or leadership can work. Now, some people may can't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe they need that person down the hall with them. Maybe they can't be trusted.
Sure.
Maybe some leaders have to be in the office. They have to be. Some are micromanagers,
Yeah.
and those aren't leaders. We don't want you.
Yeah.
We don't.
True.
Right.
And also depending on the time in your career. I think when I was first in HR, I needed somebody with me.
Yeah.
I needed
Yeah.
it because I was so green. I didn't really understand what to do. I still needed that guidance of somebody there that I can just pop in and say, hey, I
Right.
hate to bother you again. But so I think that's a really good point to make, is dependent on the point in your career, you probably, I think early on, would need to have somebody there with you.
Could that be a colleague or somebody on your same level, or does it have to be the leader?
I think it
Or
could be a
depends on-
colleague if that colleague is well trained and
Can be trusted.
yes.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
fair. That's fair.
Absolutely.
So follow us on all our social media platforms.
Yes.
We're going through a rebranding. We're thinking of different things, and we're going to get some photo shoots and some pictures going to be out. So we're excited about our path forward and where we're taking the podcast.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your support and you sending suggestions and commenting and questions, and keep them coming.
Yes.
But follow us. Like the video right now. You're watching it. Or you're going to get a corrective action. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, we're still building, right? And it's going to take time. And we just had a really good conversation about path forward and the work that we're doing and how impactful some people see it as. And we really appreciate that. So continue to follow us. Continue to, we took a little break, and but we're back.
Yes.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much for watching.
Yes.
Abby, do you have anything?
No. Yeah, just as AJ said, thank you guys so much. But until our next meeting.
Let's have a great week. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No.
I kind of
No, I was trying to hit at 15.